The US military, following the president's order to fight narco cartels, deployed a small armada to the Caribbean, relatively close to Venezuela. Recall that the US recently labeled the Venezuelan government as effectively a narco cartel in itself. The US armada has been in place for some weeks now, and the situation remains uncertain. This video will review the US assets in the region and the Venezuelan assets available to counter them. The US currently uses Puerto Rico as a forward base, roughly 500 miles from Caracas. At its airport, a significant force has been deployed, including 10 F-35B aircraft. There are also several P-8 maritime patrol planes on rotating missions and multiple Reaper drones conducting reconnaissance. Nearby, an Amphibious ready group is stationed, consisting of 2 San Antonio-class landing ships and 1 Iwo Jima-class flat-top assault ship, which in May was observed carrying 4 to 6 Harrier jump jets. All ships in the group also carry various air assault rotorcraft. One Burke-class destroyer guards the Amphibious group, while another Burke, accompanied by a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, is positioned closer to Venezuelan territorial waters. A third Burke may have transited the Panama Canal to join them. Additionally, a Freedom-class LCS is also on patrol nearby. In addition, a Los Angeles-class nuclear submarine is also likely patrolling nearby, probably armed with 12 Tomahawk cruise missiles. The rest of the US ships could potentially add 100 or 200 more Tomahawks, or even more if not well stocked with anti-air missiles. While the US could deploy far greater forces, this represents the immediate potential of the current task force. Venezuela nominally has a Type 209 submarine, but it has been under refit for years and is not seaworthy. The US Poseidon planes are deployed not to hunt subs, but to monitor ships and boats, with some possibly equipped with a new side-looking radar capable of long-range sea and ground tracking. The Venezuelan Navy is modest, consisting of a single small outdated frigate and several missile and offshore patrol boats. Only some can carry anti-ship missiles, mostly Chinese C-802s or Italian automats. In reality, there is virtually no chance any vessel could approach a US ship to launch missiles, except perhaps in a surprise peacetime attack. And even then, only a handful of old subsonic missiles would be involved, posing little threat to a US group with layered defenses. Venezuela's air force includes up to 18 very old F-16s, whose operational readiness is doubtful due to spare parts issues. Likely only a few can fly. There are also 21 Su-30 MKV flankers, which are more capable but still based on 30-year-old technology. Those have not undergone meaningful modernization and wouldn't stand a chance against F-35s. If Venezuela's planes tried to engage US ships, they would likely be shot down before inflicting serious damage. That said, some forward position US ships could be vulnerable to a flight of low-flying Su-30s launching anti-ship missiles, or an unlucky recon asset could be ambushed before F-35s can intervene. The US force near Venezuela isn't sized for a full-scale invasion. It can handle narco cartels, sure, but even 150 cruise missiles or a few hundred bombs over weeks wouldn't significantly impact a country the size of Venezuela. Venezuela does possess some long and medium-range air defenses, S-300V and Buksams, but they lack the numbers. Against stealthy jets with advanced sensors, most Venezuelan SAMs would likely remain inactive and constantly repositioned. Occasional ambushes are possible but unlikely. In practice, US naval assets could blockade Venezuela's coast and even sink its entire navy if needed. Using the Amphibious Ready group for anti-cartel operations, however, is more complicated. The group carries the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, around 2,200 Marines across 3 large landing ships. Many of those would be flown in by rotorcraft to raid possible cartel sites deeper inside Venezuela. In theory, those rotorcraft could bring in troops to secure a beach before landing craft could come in. Even if Venezuela's militia responds, it's plausible that with the F-35s, Harriers and Viper attack helicopters, as well as SM-6 missiles in land attack mode, the US could pick a distant, lightly defended part of Venezuela and offload those 2,200 troops. But then what? Venezuela has a sizable ground force, 63,000 active army personnel, 15,000 Marines, 23,000 National Guardsmen, and 220,000 paramilitaries. The US Expeditionary Unit is simply not sized to fight Venezuela directly. The Venezuelan army fields a few hundred tanks and armored vehicles, just over 300 howitzers and MLRS systems, and nearly 300 mortars, all capable of halting a small US force, even the Amphibious ready group without a much larger additional land or air support group. However, Venezuela's poor air defenses leave those units vulnerable to US aerial dominance. The US goal would likely remain targeting specific narco cartel locations. Such operations require deep air insertions across Venezuela's interior, often 300 to 450 miles deep, with a fair part of it covered in rainforests. That would increase the risk of ambushes and casualties. Any significant US losses could be framed as Venezuelan intervention, prompting a larger future US response that might involve reinforcing the initial 8 ships and a dozen jets with a full armada, or much more realistically, a prolonged bombing campaign. And remember, Binkov may talk about war, but only real peace can bring us all together.